One of the most practical sport fighting systems for personal protection, in my opinion, is Thai boxing. I am a Thai boxing coach. I don't pretend to be a masterclass coach. I am a crew under Ajahn Songlith Singthong, and I've often referred to myself as a beer league Muay Thai coach. But through hard work and dedication, fighters from our gym have managed to achieve gold nationally and have achieved gold in world kickboxing competitions several times. We also have been the home of Tyson Hersher, who was at one time ranked number 10 in all of Canada for amateur Thai boxing. We have done amazingly well for a small gym in a small community with a small stable of fighters. So when it comes to pugilism, I think I have a little bit to offer. I have seen some very good pugilism from Filipino martial artists. I've also seen pugilism that lacks the proper structure and movement. So I'm going to give a little bit of guidance. So when you're training fighters, make sure you teach them to keep their chins down and their shoulder up. This is called a 3-point guard that you see here. That raised shoulder protects the chin. Now, if you're going to do the Philly shell, make sure that it's tight, that you are protecting yourself, that you're protecting your chin with your shoulder and your power side hand. Shoulder up. See how much that protects my chin? Even if we're doing knife training, by having that shoulder up, I protect my throat from slashes from the side. I don't know how many times in knife sparring I've had slashes to the throat hit me on the cheek instead of the throat because of that shoulder being up. Now here, when you punch, make sure you get your shoulder over. Make sure you keep that chin down. This is imperative. If your chin isn't down when you're sparring, now our chins all wag in the air once in a while. Now notice when I'm punching, I end up moving across my center line. I end up moving off center line. So my head's not just a stationary target. Roll that shoulder, right? And move that head. Very important. If that shoulder isn't up, if those hands aren't up, if that chin's not down, you're asking to be knocked out. It is dangerous. If you're not teaching your students that, you are putting your students in danger. This is a way of avoiding head injuries. It is so important. Elbows in to protect the ribs. Now, the best way to practice that is to work in front of a mirror. If you're not doing mirror work and shadow boxing, you are not hardwiring the proper mechanics. Make sure you do mirror work. Make sure you have your students do mirror work. This is really, really important. This is an ingredient you shouldn't fail to use. When I'm working with a pad holder, I should be punished for dropping my hands. If my hands drop, the pad holder needs to be swatting me in the side of the head. Not to be mean, but to remind me to keep my proper structure. Now, pad holding is never done just stationary like this. We're just doing it for an example. Every time I drop my hands, you notice Keith gives me a little whack on the side of the head. Pad holding should be done like a fight. You should be circling, moving around each other, and moving back and forth. This is very important. Now here I am working the heavy bags. This is also something that you got to put a lot of time into. You need to put hours into, but still maintain that chin down, shoulders up. This is so important. I just can't stress it enough. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not a master fighter. In fact, I was never a fighter. I just love the art as a base for self-protection. Bag work is something that I do probably 3 to 4 times a week, every week, all the time, all year round. It is so important to me because I can't spar as much as I used to, so I need to make sure that I'm keeping my skills up. Don't get me wrong, I do spar. I spar quite often, but I'm very picky about who I spar with because at my age, I can't take hard impact on the head because of how intracranial blood vessels get stretched as you age because of brain shrinkage. I need to be careful of that because that can be a cause of a brain bleed as an older martial artist. You may have noticed the headbutt that I threw there. I don't train pugilism for any sporting application, so I train a lot of dirty fighting in my pugilism. I work a lot of elbows, sometimes knees, but I actually try not to lift my legs too often when I'm training for self-defense because it gives an opponent a way of taking me off balance easier if they grab my leg when it's raised. But as if you're training for sport, the sport of Thai boxing or the sport of kickboxing, you need to be using every weapon that you're going to use in the ring. If you're serious about pugilism, you need to make it a lifestyle. It can't be just something you do twice a week and then never practice. If you have 2 days a week in your gym, then you need to be putting extra time in. This is why our gym has 2 days a week of open mats where fighters can come in and work the bags and work with each other, spar, because you need more than just your 2 classes a week or whatever you put in, 2 or 3 classes. If you're going to be a competitive pugilist and you're going to face other people who are training hard like you need to make it a lifestyle. You need to make sure that you give everything you got into your training. You need to push yourself and you need a coach who will push you too. But if you're training with bad habits and your coach is letting you get away with bad habits, then you're training yourself to lose. Make sure that your coach will push you, will recognize when you're dropping your hands, when you got your chin up, when you are doing things that put you in danger, like moving into the power of your opponent, things like that, little details. You need to be reminded of those details. And this is why if you cross-train, don't just cross-train in your same circle. Don't cross-train within your gym. If your gym tells you we cross-train but doesn't encourage you to go and seek out other coaches, they don't really cross-train. You need to cross-train with competitive fighting gyms if you're going to do pugilism. Get out. There's some really good ones in Calgary. Vanessa Belgrade, Mike Miles, Trevor Smandich. I mean, there's many. I don't know about boxing gyms. There's Impact Boxing. There's just so many places you can go in many big cities that are available for you to train with competitive fighters. Don't just stay with the same coach. If you are taught to cross-train with other schools. And if your coach doesn't encourage you to cross-train but says they cross-train, then your coach isn't being honest with you. Cross-training doesn't mean sticking to the same coach and doing different disciplines, because you'll get the same bad habits, the same bad training. I absolutely encourage my students to hit up the local boxing gym if they'll let them. I absolutely encourage my students to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. And there are a lot of good places in town. Even if they wanted to do Kyokushin karate, there's a great club that'll help toughen them up along with their Muay Thai training. Like, there's so much they can do. Do not hold your students only to your gym if you are someone who believes in the Jeet Kune Do mentality of cross-training. Cross-training with only you is not cross-training. I cannot beleaguer that point enough. However, I will leave with this. If you want good pugilistic training, go to a gym that fights. There are many gyms that do a little bit of pugilism as kind of like a side art, but if they're not competitive, you probably won't get as good a training. If you're aware of that and you like the coach, that's a little different. But if you really want to be good at any style of pugilism, get to a competitive gym. Get to a coach who teaches fighters. Thank you.